organization is trying to build membership, so we've suggested for non-members, donations are in the back. If you're not on the email list and would like to be, you can sign up back there. I think that Sarah can take it away. Let's pepper her with questions afterwards.
Thank you, Lynn. Thanks for the invitation to be here. When I asked if I could be here, you said yes. I have been designing and building in Eugene for nearly 30 years. So I have quite a body of work. It's been changing quite a bit. I have some ancient relics down here from back when habitats. We were a design build firm, multidisciplinary. We did homes, landscapes, ecological restoration. We designed it, we built it, we maintained it. It was a lot. And then my husband and I peeled off, and it was just us running terraculture for a while. Landscape. Things come and go, but the Northwest EcoBuilding Guild has been here for some time. I think all of those 30 years, or most of them anyway. So after that, I went to the Longtown Watershed Council, and I managed the Urban Waters and Wildlife Program, which primarily worked with businesses to voluntarily retrofit their sites with stormwater management, and all the way from little tiny rain gardens to enormous 5-acre wetlands. I got to be involved with and be the primary designers on. Just kept building my passion for stormwater. And during that time, I was also managing the pesticide stewardship partnership for Amazon Creek, so I got to learn all about that. So I know a lot about urban pollutants as well as how to manage them. So we're going to talk about all of that today. I want to, so why am I here now? I left Longtown Watershed Council at the end of June this year. And I decided I'd just go back to terraculture. I'd just be me. I've been overworking for 30 years, and I'm going to scale it back. Yeah, just be me. We'll see how that goes. So I'm terraculture again. And I want to invite you to ask questions as we go along. Because I don't know about you, but I can't hold a question in my head. So I'm very bad at microphones. Please let me know when you can't hear me, or if I'm yelling, or any of the above. So what we're going to cover today, what is typical urban stormwater management, what are the impacts of urban stormwater runoff, common urban pollutants, introduction to green stormwater infrastructure, common types of facilities, keys to green stormwater infrastructure success, and we're going to dive deep into those pieces of the puzzle. So the typical stormwater, I'm not going to go back to the ancient days, but these days in urban spaces is commonly, people don't call it this, but it's gray infrastructure, right? The water lands on our roofs, it goes into pipes, it gets piped out to curb and gutter and into the stormwater receiving stream. Never touches soil, never touches plants, and that is really how we clean the water. There's all these little organisms in the soil that we need to be partnering with for this cleaning process. So the other piece of the puzzle here is that the pollutants aerosolize. They kind of pick up off of the ground and they fall back down. If they fall back on the impervious surfaces, they sit there until the rain comes and they get washed back into the system again. If it falls on the lawn, then it will pick up all of those things. Lawn actually has a high runoff rate compared to healthy soils and healthy plant communities. So that's our goal, healthy soils, healthy plants. Here in Eugene, 70% of our stormwater goes into Amazon Creek. The other 30% goes into the Willamette River. Amazon Creek enters the Long Tom River just upstream of the city of Monroe's drinking water intake. It's something to keep in mind as you go around your day, looking at the impervious surfaces all around us. People know what impervious surfaces are, right? Okay, very good. I think we can go on. Yeah. So, if you take all of the land use here in Eugene and concentrate that down onto a single acre, then only 3,700 gallons per year will actually infiltrate. The remaining 1,230,000 gallons per year go directly into our rivers. So that's assuming a 48-inch rainfall year. That wiggles, but that's our average number. With climate change, we're getting more of loopy jet streams. What I'm hearing is that number doesn't actually move very much, just when and how we get the rain changes. So I think we can still use that number for now and not second guess ourselves into oblivion, because there's just too much second guessing that has to happen these days. We find new urban pollutants all the time. I would say the most recent one to come up into our body of knowledge is the 6-PPD quinone, which is an ozonate that comes off of our tires and really any rubber that's outside. Once that rubber is outside, it's 6-PPD to start with, and then as it gets exposed to the sun, it sloughs off and becomes 6-PPD quinone. This material we first became aware of up in the Puget Sound when they kept seeing the salmon die off after a rain event. What is happening here? So they really picked apart the urban pollutant matrix. And this new material, they had to give it a name. It's not a pretty name. It doesn't roll off the tongue, but that's the name they gave it. And they're finding some other 6-PPD variants. So it is killing coho within seconds of exposure. We're finding it in all of our bodies. It aerosolizes and we breathe it in. Are they looking for an alternative? Yes. They're going about it slowly so that we don't replace it with something that is inadvertently more poisonous. So it's going to be a long process. But I do believe that there are tires available now without 6-PPD quinone, or 6-PPD, excuse me. So just something to be aware of. It's very hard to avoid. The best thing you can do if you're driving your car or your tires is to have them, what do you call it? There's the right amount of air in them. Thank you. The right inflation. A word that I don't enjoy, but it's appropriate here. So another really important piece of the puzzle is in the urban areas, well, anywhere really, sediment binds, or other pollutants bind very quickly and easily to sediment. So if there's dirt around, it probably is polluted, and you don't want to be taking this stuff out of the gutter and tossing it in your garden or your compost. That's garbage, unfortunately.
So that's what you mean by sediment is congregating? It's congregating.
Yes, it picks them all up. As it runs along, it picks up all those pollutants. Yeah, and I didn't come up with that term. That was Fred from the city of Eugene put that in my head.
One thing about car tires, most of them don't actually have any rubber in it. It's all synthetic derivatives of coal tar.
So thank you for that. The piece of the puzzle that 6-PPD plays is to keep it flexible, whatever the components are. They use the term rubber when they're presenting. You know more than I do. and that's probably, I'm sure, I'm talking to a very knowledgeable crowd here. You guys know a lot more than I do on a lot of aspects, I'm sure. So, green stormwater infrastructure, it doesn't always have to be this little dip in the ground or a planter. It can simply just run over flat space if that is healthy soils with healthy plants. Not too steep, lots of little caveats. But it's easiest to capture in a little dish in the landscape in one way, shape, or form. So we're capturing that rainfall, we're holding it. So not only are we treating it, we're delaying that water getting to our stormwater receiving streams. And that's really important in that the flashy impacts in those streams that erodes the soil, it's bringing all those pollutants very quickly to all of those organisms. There's a lot going on there. So the more we can truly hang on to that water, the better. So that's also going to give us some groundwater recharge. And one of the things that I'm continuously amazed at, doesn't seem to matter what new pollutants we find, we're learning that if we allow it to have contact time with soil and plants, it's cleaned up. I don't think we know how long that's going to stay. Like, is it actually being changed into something else? Is it being sequestered? At some point, is that sequestration going to, we're at full and it's going to start sloughing off again? I think the answer is going to be different based on the pollutants that we're talking about, the plants and the soil makeup, all of those components. So we're just doing the best we can here. This is the best tool we have right now. So just going through a couple different plant types. I've coupled a diagram with a project that I've done. So if you have a question about the project that I'm showing here, feel free. In most cases, you can just go see them. So this is a rain garden. I like to do long linear rain gardens rather than swales. It's like a bathtub. I can hold more water in them, and that's my primary goal. Hold the water in the stormwater facility. Any other questions about rain gardens? Pretty simple. I'll get into the troublesome details later. So this is a swale. This is a really long linear swale. This is at used to be Seneca when I did the project. It's Sierra Pacific now. It runs the length of their they call it a scaling yard. Is where they drop the logs. It's maybe 800 feet long. It's really long. And then it connects to several other processes that I'll show you as well. So a swale is just different from a rain garden in that it has a slope to it and it has check dams along the way to slow that water down. Is there a question in the back? Nope? Okay. Yeah, I think we can do that. Yeah. So this is an in-ground stormwater planter. They do not have to take up the entire front yard. This one did, because they wanted to manage not just the water coming off of their site, but also all the water that was coming onto their site from other nearby places. That's technically illegal. They just wanted to look over that and just go ahead and treat it. Sure, let's do it. So this is at Eugene Friends Meeting House, and you can swing by and see it. We do have a bottom under it where we are really close to the neighbors, which was downhill, and we didn't want to inundate them with any more water. So a portion of this does have a bottom to it, but most of it does not, so that we can infiltrate when the soils allow. It's very clayey there.
So Sarah, you did this design?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very complex. There's a lot going on here. I'm not showing the whole rain garden component, and there's also some swales. There's a huge sediment drop in the back, collecting water from the parking lot and the alley, and the neighbors that drain into the alley. So, yeah, we did this project that, if you do swing by there, It is 100% natives. So that's a great example of a site that you can do 100% natives. And it looks good in the winter, if I do say so myself. I honestly, I didn't do the planting plan. I did the design. I oversaw the planting plan. All truth be told. So this is a little more complex and less seen facility called a filter strip and a level spreader. So this is what I was referring to. The filter strip is that long, not too steep soil and vegetation mix. Level spreader takes water from a pinpoint from a pipe and then makes it so that that water fills up a long space and then flows evenly up and over, so you don't get erosion and you don't have that water pinpointing and just adding more sediment downhill. So this avoids that. See the level spreader. I usually see really ugly ones like that diagram there. This one that we designed here doubles as a bench in the summer, so there's not water in the bottom. This was the non-smoking area at Mount Mosers. And this flows down into a retention pond that flows into Amazon Creek, right there. A retention pond is one that has an outflow that is just a little bit lower than the inflow, so pretty high. And it's going to hold that water until it evaporates, evapotranspirates, infiltrates, what have you. So this is a fun one I got to do out at Thermo Fisher Scientific. They were tearing down a 3-story building. I said, leave the foundation. I want to use it. So that's it. The water actually flows in through the holes on the side and then flows over land before it hits the detention pond. Retention pond, sorry. Next we'll see a detention pond. This is that long linear swale ends up here in this constructed wetland, and we have a forebay first. So we're finding all the ways to take that sediment out. So as I said, the sediment, that's where the pollutants are. Is there water still, pollutants still in water? You betcha. But we get a head start if we can take out the solid particulates, anything we can. So yeah, this is a 5-acre constructed wetland, detention pond. It kind of runs the line there. Yeah.
I was here late, I might have missed this, but you're capturing sediment. Is it being scooped out at some point, and where is it going? Did I miss it? I'm sorry.
You did not miss that, no. So the answer is it's garbage for now. If you have a small facility and you're scooping with a shovel, that goes in the garbage. If you are using a backhoe or some large equipment, then that goes to the part of the words. Sorry. It goes to the polluted side of the extra polluted side of Short Mountain, where they leave it to aerosolize the pollutants until it reaches a level that DEQ thinks is okay to then put into the garbage. I put in the Lane County Waste here. I was hoping to write a grant to make this happen, but I'm not with the Long Tom anymore. Who knows if it'll happen again. But they have shown that oyster mushrooms can absolutely transform pollutants from radiation to heavy metals. So I would really love to see some micro-remediation.
Has anybody tried something like John Todd's polluting machine? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I'm familiar with it.
That's taken like super duper essence. I'm just curious to tell it.
I can tell you who to talk to at Lane County Waste. I think they need to hear it from more people than me. Yeah.
Some of the long chain hydrocarbons, especially the chlorinated ones, can be broken down with these processes.
Some of them.
But the problem is when you have elements that are toxic, they don't break down because they're elements
Mhm.
and radioactive materials don't break down because it's at the atomic nuclei, it's not a chemical process. You can
So,
accumulate certain radioactive isotopes, but that just accumulates it and then you still have them. They do not go away from chemical process.
I believe you. We're out of my knowledge base, but what I know is that Paul Stamets has said that his system actually made the pile so that there was no more radiation detectable.
I'd love to see peer reviews.
Yeah, me too. For now, I'm believing him because I need something to hang on to.
Kind of on that topic, with the fill itself, I can see how that would aggregate pollutants, but do they fix the plants themselves, begin to uptake those pollutants into their body? And then is there some system where you're taking off the annual growth, centralizing that somewhere, and then the plant themselves are fixing the pollutants in their body?
So, this is a long answer. I proposed, because there's people out there maintaining stormwater facilities that do not know what they're doing. The vast majority of people out there maintaining stormwater facilities do not know what they're doing. So they're cutting plants down in the fall, so that there's no plants in there during the winter when we need them to be treating. They're scraping things clean. I've had so many strawberries ripped out of facilities because those are weeds. It's just ongoing. So my proposal was, amongst other things, to have a task of educated people who are maintaining stormwater facilities. They separate the sediment from the plants. Those go to different places at the wastewater, at the landfill, and they're managed and treated correctly. Incineration is one of the things that was proposed for actually managing PFAS and PFOS. Seems to be the most effective way to do at least the short chains of those. You should have seen they nearly blew up when I said incineration. But that's what the science is saying. You can make it up.
On a residential scale, if you have a stormwater planter, and it's planted with the natives happening, then how often are you gonna have to sweep it out?
So what you want to do is put in a sediment drop so that that concentrates where you're cleaning things out. And you can let the soil and plants and the soil life, the root depth, those are the things that are really doing the work for us. I can't tell you how many engineered stormwater facilities I have seen where the engineers call for all the soil and plants to be removed, depending on the size, either 1 year or 3 years. And that negates the functionality of the stormwater facility. We're really relying on complex soil life and a mix of plants because we don't really know yet who's doing what. So we mix it up. Let's hedge our bets. And we know that's best for it. And I'll show you what I'm talking about a sediment drop. Because I see the cities are putting in sediment drops. They're concrete, so they'll hold the sediment until the next rain, and then that gets pushed right back into the facility. So I've developed, I don't have a better term for this yet, I'm calling them permeable sediment drops, so that the water comes in, there's something for the pollutants to stay on, and the water then flows down and into the facility at the soil column level, which is where all the treatment's happening. So I have some pictures of this.
Or something?
I'll show you. Yeah. So some less common GSA types. Of course, we would love to see way more green rose. I know of 5 here in Eugene. Habitats, way back in the day, did this. This was the stormwater demonstration home. Got a grant for it, and then we also did the sequential biofuel roof. Is that Jeff Art back there? Jeff was instrumental in both of those green roofs. and bucked all the green roof systems, like just turned it all upside down. The typical green roof has highly engineered soils that drain the water off very, very quickly. They plant them with sedums, which don't evapotranspire, nor do they take up water very quickly. So it just really changed things around, high organics in the soil, and all your wetland plants out there. Mixed with some upland plants, because they're gonna each have their time to shine throughout the year.
I'm really curious about green roofs. And I don't want to take too much time in your presentation.
Got a card up here, and I know how to contact Jeff, so, yeah, or you can contact Jeff directly, yeah. But if you have a specific question, people want to hear 'em.
Yeah, I feel like it would get too granular.
You got it, okay. Later, later. And then, of course, there's permeable pavers. Let's just allow the water to seep in. We know that impervious surfaces have function. I want to have a solid roof over my head. I don't want to be driving through mud. They absolutely have a purpose, but they don't have to be impervious. So not only do we have permeable pavers, up in Gresham, they've been doing some fantastic work on permeable concrete and asphalt in high traffic areas and getting really good results. What else is exciting? You see this depth here of all this gravel and pipes and all this infrastructure underneath. They did one stretch of road like this and one stretch where they just did a skim layer on top of permeable concrete and asphalt. The water was just as clean. So you don't get the infiltration, but you get clean water. And I think that's a win. Cisterns, they actually took cisterns out of the Eugene Stormwater Manual. I think they're a really effective tool especially when you're in a high clay area or just don't have enough area to really get as big a facility as you want. So this can be your storage area. In this case, this is still the Stormwater Demonstration House. We've had a little quarter, I think it was about a quarter-inch tube. What's that? That we just left open through the winter. So it would trickle out. You'd get a big rain, it would fill up, and the water would trickle out, and then there's room. The next time it rains, it fill back up again. So it's a delay mechanism. And of course, then you have water stored on your site, which is a good thing. People don't think about them, but we've got catch basins all over the place. They are capturing water. Many of them are designed to take out the oils and trash. This is only effective if you regularly have them cleaned. This is not something you want to clean yourself, really, unless you're a very small residential site. So I worked with Lane County, and there's now a storm, what do we call it? We called it the Storm Drain Cleaning Assistance Program, which cuts the price of cleaning these things in half. And they're able to do that by having 2 sign-up periods through the year. And then they bank those people who've signed up and map them out, and they go do all the ones that are next to each other at a time. So you're doing a lot of good by signing up for this program. Please tell everybody about it. Anybody who has a storm drain can sign up for this unless you're industrial or public. And it literally cuts the price in half.
Is that at all of Lake County or just Springfield?
All of Lane County. They were doing it out of the coast. Yeah. So I can't really stand by these, but they exist. There's, filtration media or just collecting the water in, I call them swirlies, because when the water comes in, it swirls and the trash falls down, and sometimes they come and clean them out. I worked with Springfield to put one in just above Day Island Park, or Island Slough is entirely stormwater fed. And I checked in 5 years later to see how much was coming out of there. And they're like, oh, we should clean that. So, remind everybody to clean these things. They don't, it's out of sight, out of mind. That's one of the good things about great stormwater infrastructure is you can see it, and you know when it needs help. These things are under a vault. Who knows what's going on in there? And you have to replace them, and then they're garbage. Right? You can't reuse those. So, keys to GSI success. I think you've seen all around the city, we've got all sorts of rain gardens everywhere. They might start out planted, but usually pretty quickly they turn into either weeds or grass, or they're no longer a complex planting. Yeah, they tried. Some of the, we'll go through the pieces of the puzzle. Yeah, so we'll start with the, okay, yeah, okay. Thank you, man, sorry. So these are two different sediment drops. The one on the left is the permeable sediment drop that I was mentioning, and I do have a cross-section in the next slide here. This is at Willamette Christian Center in the parking lot, so you can go by and see those. Let's hear. I think I'll wait to describe exactly what's going on until we're looking at a cost cut. There's different ways, of course, that you can design this. You don't have to have a metal structure around it. I got really excited for a while. I was using, you guys probably know the name for this better than I do, their front loader through here. That's how we sized it. It's the width of their front loader, so they can just drive through and pick up sediment before it goes into the swale. So here's the cross section. Again, it doesn't have to be metal, but see, I've got holes running all around the sides. I'm like plugged up. Okay. So, water enters here. There's a metal structure coming around that is perforated. There's gravel through here. Then there's gravel on the exterior as well. So there's ease of transfer from in to out. And then I put a single piece of fabric, small gravel, and a concrete paver that doesn't fill the entire space. It just leaves an inch or two around it. And then continue that small gravel up and around it. So you can take the sediment, just sits right on top of that paver. Should anything get clogged, you only have to go as far as that piece of fabric to clean that whole thing out. They're collecting the trash in here, and I don't know how many stormwater facilities I've seen that were just full of trash. Does trash still get in them? Yeah, the wind is not our friend in this case. But the majority of the trash is easily accessible and cleanable. So, if one of you has a great idea of what else I could call these besides permeable sediment drops, because that does not roll off the tongue, I would love to hear what that might be. Was that?
We all like it.
We all like it? Oh, okay, I'll just do it. It's so fancy. Yeah, any questions about that? Is really the primary thing that can fix a stormwater facility. Just put in a permeable sediment drop right at the inlet. And because what happens if you don't do that is, so not only is sediment the carpal pollutants, that sediment is teeny tiny. It's been aerosolized and then it's fallen down. I think you've seen that fine powder. If you go back one, this is all that fine sediment there. That clogs the open pores of the soil in our stormwater facilities. And so I've seen so many times that crust just sit right on top. The plants now don't have access to water, nor do the organisms living in that soil. And the water, there's no capacity anymore, right? The water's coming in and going right back out again. That is not doing what we wanted it to do, and we spend a lot of money on these facilities. So we just put in this piece of the puzzle, a lot of other things just happen right. Because weeds thrive in that really tough soil conditions. You know, like, give me a crack with no soil and those dang weeds will thrive, right? So that's what we're seeing in our stormwater facilities mostly.
How long have you, when did you first put one of these in, and how long has it lasted for you? Or?
Well, the first ones were done with the fast wall material, and those are still sitting there at, so behind First Christian Church, there's a paved parking lot right off of the alley behind them, between Willamette and Olive. You can see the fast wall disintegrating there, and I did that just before COVID hit, and I believe that was my first one, so 2020.
Question?
Yes.
I'm stuck on having a permeable bottom, but being able to scoop it out with a skip loader.
Oh,
The permeable
that-
bottom's
that
gonna
one-
get destroyed.
yeah, that one was not permeable. It
Okay.
then flows into a swale.
Okay.
It's a piece of, I call it a treatment train.
Okay,
So we've got a lot of things
so let's say you're
together.
not using a skip loader, how do you still scoop it out without damaging the membrane or something you got at the bottom?
Well, so the forebay before the wetlands, they just don't scrape all the way to the bottom.
Okay, you just take most of it and leave some.
Take what you can access.
All planters with paper on top.
Yeah, these ones have a paver.
Okay,
Mhm.
Fabric is there's some round.
okay, I got it.
Yeah.
You got a nice.
And I try to get them to, didn't happen at Willamette Christian Center, but I asked them to size them to be able to get a flat shovel in there and just scoop it right out.
The picture that was on previously at the Willamette Christian Center, what is the material in that sediment drop? on the left?
So it's a steel on the outside that's then been, I always want to call it hot dip, that's not, it's painted.
Powder coat?
Powder coated, thank you. And actually drilled first and then powder coated so that the powder coating covers all the holes running through it. And then it's literally just gravels, one strip of fabric, a concrete paver, and gravel around the edge of it. So it's for about an
Oh, is
inch.
that what I'm seeing there, the concrete paper, that gray, oh.
So there's water sitting right on top of it. Yeah, it'll evaporate or eventually make its way around and down.
And we're asking because we're doing a residential roof, that would be good for a residential roof, right? Yes.
Anytime.
Anytime.
Yeah.
Anytime.
Yep. As near as so far, I mean, there's exceptions to every rule. But in all the scenarios that I can think of.
Well, I was hearing you talking about trash and all these other things, I'm like, oh, we're not gonna have trash. But yes, off a roof, off a roof.
I live in Whitaker, I've got trash.
Do I think the code calls for just like a gravel area
Yeah.
where the water is, but this would be an improvement on it?
Yeah, so, I think so. So when they started, the whole focus was on energy dissipation, because the water coming through that tube is running really fast and you're gonna get erosion in your facilities. So that's why they used the riprap in there. I heard from so many people who had to maintain those things, that they just, getting rid of the sediment out of the riprap and the weeds that grow in them, it's just a nightmare. So, yeah, these also do the energy
And then
dissipation.
you can just focus where you're cleaning, that one spot, and not so much.
Fun. Yeah.
With the road runoff, if that's what you're trying to deal with, would that be considered gray water or black water or
No.
it's its own separate category?
Stormwater,
And
yeah.
could these principles also work for gray water or black water? for that matter?
Well, we're not trying to remove organics. Boy, but maybe. I haven't applied that to,
'Cause
yeah,
I love the whole concept of diverting your washing machine,
yeah.
because it's basically just soap, if you use mild soap, there's no reason to send it to the sewage treatment center.
Right, yeah, off topic a little bit, but my grandma lived in San Francisco, and she did that. She ran her washing machine water out into her yard to the point where the water people came and checked to see what the heck was going on there. Yeah, it works. It's measurable, even for one old lady. Yeah.
She's irrigating her avocado tree.
I learned from the best. Sizing This is really, so when you look at how to size a facility, there's 3 different categories. One is filtration, one is detention, and one is complete management all on one site. I'm not using the right terms here, sorry. But the flow through really just slows the water down a little bit. It's not really even intending to try to infiltrate or hold a whole storm. It holds a 2.5 inches rain event in 1 hour, excuse me. So then the next step is intended to hold a whole 5-year rain event. And then the last step, they want to see you retain 100% stormwater on your site, period. That is really the only way to get out a stormwater fee. You want to do all of these all reduction of impervious surfaces before you get something permitted, because afterwards you're only allowed to reduce your fee by 10%. So get it right to start with if you can. Still do it. It's not all about the money, but you know. And so again, with these, the sizing does not recognize this climate change that we're coming across, and we know we get a lot of water at once, and then not a lot of water and a lot of water. So make your facilities as big as you possibly can. Therefore, I think they should also be as aesthetically pleasing as we possibly can. Right? Nobody wants something big and ugly on their site. Yes, aesthetics are different for every person. I've taken so many photos, I'm so proud of how planted Willamette Christian Center is here. In the middle of winter, it's full, and to many people, it's like, yeah, it looks like weeds. But they're not. Those are intentional plants. Yeah.
On the flip side, is there a design consideration, since our dry season is getting longer, having drier Augusts, is there a design consideration for sizing or anything like that?
Well, just treat it like your landscape. If you're using, good soils and native plants, it can just be considered your landscape. So really treating it the same way. The other side of that is that when you're collecting that water and really focusing on infiltration, you're going to have more water on site for longer. Your shoulders are going to be longer, so you're going to have more water available in your landscape. And that's another thing that I failed to mention is the impervious surfaces. It's this complex issue that happens when we get urban desertification. And we just have little tiny bits of soil poking up here and there, trying to support big street trees, all these landscapes with really no contiguous soils happening. So that increases our irrigation, increases our fertilization, increases pests, and so then people tend to spray. So it just compounds the problem. So we really want to get as much water infiltrating and as much impervious surfaces out of here as we can, and still be practical. Yeah.
In Tucson, Arizona, they've done a big project in some of the neighborhoods where they had little depressions running off the streets, and they planted fruit trees and native trees, and according to Brad Lancaster, who did a presentation on this a long time ago, that part of the city in the summer can be 10 degrees Fahrenheit.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we're also battling urban heat island effect with all of these guys. So a lot of people ask me if they can use their stormwater facilities for edibles. I don't recommend it. That's as far as I can go. I don't want the science behind it. It doesn't feel like. Do I feel bad about the wildlife coming to them? I can't stop it. I'd rather have it there than not for them.
Living Building has people treating all of their stormwater on site. Have you had an opportunity to work on a living building?
I haven't. No, excited to. Yeah. No, I could only do voluntary projects for the last 11 years. So there's very few required projects that I got to work on. Yeah. Oh, there's the bigger, better slide. Isn't that fancy? Yeah. Yeah, I don't think I think we covered all those. More time in contact with soils and plants, some more treatment, increased delay before stormwater reaches the receiving streams, reducing the flashy, more opportunities for groundwater recharge, and more habitat value. So one piece that I didn't touch on is that the city of Springfield relies on groundwater recharge. That's where their water comes from. So if water lands on the ground in Springfield, we're drinking it. So something to think about. Just leave it at that. So this gets really complex. Just as I think I learned from Jeff on this, just because somebody has stated what the soil should look like, you might want to think about that a little bit longer. Engineers originally came up with the specifications for stormwater facilities. They really don't like flood liability, so they wanted water to move through the facilities as fast as possible. That's not best for water quality and downstream efforts. So what we've been doing is a lot higher compost content, and a newer thing that's come about is using biochar. Is people in the room familiar with biochar? Getting some thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. Okay. So in many cases, especially in industrial sites, people like to just put bags of biochar down, and they do see a reduction until that biochar gets filled up, and then it's going to flush right back out again. So we need complete systems. We have the healthy plants. As the roots grow, not only are they picking up more pollutants, they're also supporting more of the soil organisms. Those soil organisms are doing a lot of changing some, not all, of the pollutants into something that's bioavailable, especially the heavy metals. Those can then be uptaken by the plants. Also, those roots help with infiltration. So many times I've seen my facilities get completely full year one. They drain faster year two. By year three, they're hardly holding any water unless you've got a really huge rain event. So the root development absolutely matters in stormwater facilities, which means we want really, really healthy soils. It's everything working together for these facilities to work. So, in most facilities, in most manuals, they call for a separation between, so in the city of Eugene, they call for a minimum of 12 inches of soil. Most people go with the minimum. Can't even get a tree in that. A shrub isn't going to thrive. And after that 12 inches is fabric, and then gravel, and then a pipe. So the water's running really quickly through these facilities. If you really want a facility to function, you have deep, healthy roots. Just don't have gravel and fabric. At Willamette Christian Center, what we did, and this is what the new Portland manual calls for, is you only have gravel and a pipe for the bottom, the last third of your facility. So you're still not going to flood. And there's always an overdrain to collect that top layer. That's not, sorry, those aren't words that make sense in this capacity. So as the water fills up, use do a standpipe at the highest point that you want water to be in your facility. So there's somewhere for the water to go if the bottom is fully saturated. There's always ways we can make it so it's not going to flood. I don't know how much more I need to say about plantings. Ideally, it's native because, of course, we are directly connected to the stormwater receiving streams. If you have weeds and non-natives, those weed seeds can get carried on down. So I think it's important to go with your native plants in stormwater facilities. The science says if we want to be supporting the pollinators, we need to have a minimum of 80% natives in our landscapes. You put a lesser capacity, a lesser density of plants in your facility. There's always the right plant, right place. You don't know how your facility is really going to depress here, rise here. That's yet another reason to go with the diversity of plants. and natives will receive and find their own space. So I would stay away from grid designs or any kind of fancy thing with your plants, which I've seen a lot of, unless you're okay with, is it a science experience? How long is it going to stay in your design? You know, it's just a learning process. Sure, that's fun, but don't expect it to stay that way without a lot of maintenance. Yeah, I think I said all those things. Yeah. So, especially since COVID, there's been a lot of facilities that I've installed that just haven't had maintenance. And I can tell you that those facilities that apply all of these lessons here, they're still functioning. Could they be prettier, have fewer weeds? Yes, but they are functioning. They're holding the water, they're cleaning it, and they're letting it go. You always need, this is the standpipe that I was talking about here. This is your overflow. This is your weak point if you're not maintaining. This can, leaves just attached to it once it's filled up all of that way, and then where's the water gonna go if it can't flow through and you're gonna be flooding? So I try to tell people, even if you can't get out there and maintain these facilities, at least go check your overflow pipe and make sure it's clear. That's your base minimum here. Should more happen? Absolutely. Does it? Not always. Yeah. And I believe that's the end of my presentation. Yep. Any other questions?
Well, talk to us a little bit about the Amazon watershed and what we need to be doing differently, or how bad is it?
It's not pretty. Yeah, so you can go onto DEQ's Pesticide Stewardship Partnership site and you can look at the water quality data. It's only talking about pesticides. It doesn't get into what else is in there. And you saw a double list there of the other things that are showing up in there. We need to be holding the water on site as much as possible. Whether it's reuse or it's cleaning or what have you, keeping that water on your site is really going to be the best thing for all watersheds. Thank you for the question.
I heard almost 30 years ago that there's Agent Orange in Amazon Creek. And it's for sale at every hardware store, most of the garden stores. And my environmental philosophy is don't sell things that are poison as opposed to try to mitigate the ones that disperse. 2,4-D, that's Agent Orange. And why do you think there's zero effort anywhere, not just in Oregon, to ban that? The last time we did stuff like that was during the carbon discussion.
Yeah, so when I first came on at Long Tom, there was a grant to work with the local sellers of pesticides. Jerry's was the only one who was willing to work with me. Everybody else was owned mostly by somebody in the Midwest or in overseas, and they were not willing to change any of their practices, including putting up educational signs. They were not willing to do anything.
I have left comments at Jerry's for decades, and I have never gotten a received response, even when they've been super polite.
Yeah.
I mean, they're owned locally, which is a plus,
Yes.
but
They're the only ones who educate the people who work in those areas, so they at least have knowledge. Whether or not they choose to apply it is a whole other thing. Yeah, I had to let go of that, as hard as it was.
Just quick appreciation for you and all the knowledge that you brought today. I remember that I actually saw a presentation from you maybe 15, 18 years ago, because you did the sequential living group, right?
As a team at Habitats, yes.
Yeah, and so I just remember that, and it was inspiring as a builder to try to take on kind of the more DIY so over time, I just kind of come up with this assembly of just basically like 4 inches of drain rock, which is we typically use cinder, and then a landscaping fabric, and then some sort of mix on the top. And one of the latest ones we tried is with about 20 or 5 to 10% organics and mostly a lightweight perlite mix.
I think your weight's in your gravel and there's other alternatives
Other alternatives to
Yeah.
perlite,
to gravel, yeah.
other alternatives to gravel.
Yes.
Right, because there's so much weight there. One of the things that we struggle with is then what we plant, because the sedums just feel like, gosh, so, you know, they're usually imported, you know, we're getting them from a nursery. It seems like we have plenty of growth in Oregon. I'm wondering if you've got a couple go-to natives that also are able to mitigate that wet, dry period over a living roof like that. If there's any, like a couple, I don't know, go-tos that you guys have kind of arrived at plants that might be okay in a situation like that?
I'm looking at Jeff because he continued to maintain the sequential biofuel roof until it was sold very recently. So I know that Jeff eventually had to accept the grasses that were coming in
Yeah.
because I-5 is a weed corridor in addition to everything else corridor. So that became very challenging. I'm going to put Sidalciae up there.
What would you say to this, start like you're saying earlier about what the soil mix is?
Yeah.
The perlite and minimal organics, well, supportive of it, really change that soil mix. So, and I got broken knowledge.
I was just gonna say, as far as the soil, at the sequential roof, what we did is we used 50% of, just a standard organic planting mix, like from Main Forest products. But then to that, the other 50% was like, something like, 20%, humus, as opposed to perlite or vermiculite, because that's a natural ingredient, but it's also light and holds a lot of air and water and microorganisms. But the other component was clear fiber, which is coconut fiber, which unlike peat moss is hydrophobic, it repels water, whereas coconut fiber is hydrophilic. It actually it can be 100% dry and immediately all any water that hits it will be absorbed. And I will say that over the 18 years that I was involved with maintaining the sequential roof, that soil performed really super well. And there's also like a sort of a self-fertilizing aspect in the sense that when you have the annual process where you have plants that come up and then they, just like in everywhere else in nature, they degrade. And then there's a sort of a natural composting component to it. And I can't necessarily say that there was, like a magic bulletin list of specific plant species to use. But I did have to acquiesce that, as Sarah said, that, to the grasses. And even though we intentionally didn't include those in the original design, we knew that they would come in, first of all. And regardless of whether they're native or non-native, they still really perform the function of a vegetative roof.
But I think it's
You're not gonna
important.
really keep them out non-chemical.
Right, right.
And I think that also has a drainage pattern, it doesn't have like a rock. It has all that.
That's right.
And that was sufficient.
Right, and so.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. So the actual drainage layer is right on top of the roof itself, the roofing membrane. And that's a 1/2 inch geocomposite, so it has a lot of space in between it, but it's like a waffle cone kind of thing, so it's also really strong. And that's also really helps protect the roof, the membrane then on top of that, we put what's called a moisture retention mat, which I really swear is just a repurposed name for carpet padding. Naturally based carpet padding, you know.
Just
Not-
lay some
not
wool
the styrofoam
sweaters down,
kind.
you're
It
good.
was styrofoam kind. But it was sold for that purpose. And then on top of that was geocell to help maintain the, you know, the stuff to hold the soil up on the roof. And then that's where we put the 5 inches of the soil.
And we do have some native sedums, and we use those as maintenance paths. So you just walk on the sedums, you don't have to crush the other plants.
Oh, I have to say, one of the plant species that came in naturally that I really welcome was common yarrow. And, I mean, I think it's a good pollinator plant, and it's really, you know, it can, part of the challenge is what can withstand the drought and the conditions, and yarrow could definitely do that. And another one that was really successful that we actually added, that has nothing to do with native plants, but really did well was crocus. So,
It adds that
small
hope in the
bulbs.
spring, it's so nice. That's about all it does, but we need hope.
And they did spread in patches too.
Yeah, in my lawn too, yeah. It's lovely.
So I'm kind of hearing like you're a little bit at the mercy of, you know, what's available. Grasses are hard to keep out, which in the summertime, like it can kind of get dry, they require a little bit of maintenance. But I also hear that you're also saying that I could use more organics in that mix.
Significantly. And another piece of the puzzle that I didn't mention here, and something that you don't see in the city facilities or on many roofs, is irrigation. You need irrigation, especially on a green roof. It's much hotter, windier, drier up there, and you're asking these plants to survive in 5 inches or less of soil way up there. It's not going to happen. You're going to have dead plants without irrigation.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
It's a big challenge with our climate. No rain in summertime.
Well, the reason I heard the question now is that it's years, but then city of question. That's true. That green roof that you did there is not like it. So it's not consistent. Still, they can't go this way most of the very lashes of it.
I had just been through all the green roof classes when we got to the sequential roof, and Jeff showed me his plan for that. I'm like, that doesn't meet any of the requirements. But I see why you're doing this, and let's do it. Let's do it. Yeah. Not that it was up to me,
Say, as
but
far as the moisture retention comment, Aaron, I think that we could actually double that.
Yeah.
And maximize the absorptive capacity of that, maybe even triple it, you know? Yeah.
And it seems like there's not a consensus. So I saw a lecture from somebody, you know, there's these companies now that are producing specific living room products. That and they have
roll out roofs.
totally, yeah. They can roll out the sedums and all of that. And that soil mix of low organics was based upon one of their systems. Is what they were recommending.
Yeah, and it's what the green roof professionals recommend. So the
And that
city of
supports
Eugene,
sedums? Is that like
pretty much,
that can support sedums?
and weeds. Yes, yeah.
I think it's driven
So-
mostly by the light. Like, they
Right.
want the weight,
Right.
so it's even.
The- That is primarily it. And so it's something, again, I'm working with the city of Eugene on, but if you have a green roof, you don't have to include any of that in your impervious surfaces. They're fighting against themselves and their own goals because a rollout green roof satisfies the requirement, and it's not, you still got basically an impervious surface there. There's almost no delay. Yeah, it's just running right through there, yeah. You are creating pollinator habitat. And we got killdeer at sequential, so, you know, there's habitat. That's not the primary goal.
It's really interesting to hear the evolution because that, I mean, living roofs have forever been, you know, promoted as a mitigator of stormwater.
If you do it right.
Well, I say this isn't necessarily evolution, that's still a strategy, you just don't believe it.
Yeah, and that's what's in all the manuals, it's what they're teaching the green roof professionals.
But
You
that
guys
does
just say
help
we
with
need
heat
to do
islands, at least. It would help with heat islands.
Potentially, I mean, you don't get evapotranspiration from sedums, and it depends on what that soil, you know, is it really a cooling, if they're putting 1 and 2 inches of soil on roofs. I don't know if that's actually giving you that solar deflection that we're looking for. I think it's still absorbed in that narrow, in a situation.
I was just gonna say, as far as the sedums go, I think it's a little bit at odds with itself in the sense that they do very well in the environment. Like they're able to withstand the ground and heat and everything. And I think that certainly a certain, like, percentage of sedums on the roof is a great thing. And they do add certain aspects to it, but they don't really function in the sense of like stormwater filtration very well and absorption.
Or
So you can't
retention.
I don't think it's a good idea to have like, try to have 100% sedum, for example.
Or even 50. Like,
Or even
it's
50.
more of like 20 to 30% sprinkle than your primary plant. Yeah.
Does the evaporation help cool the building then? Would that be a selling point on irrigating in the winter, number one? I mean, in summer. And number two, what if you combine cisterns and cut the overflow and then use that in the summer
Yes.
to irrigate?
And then you're
These are my-
refilling your cistern, yes, and, you know, they sell misters, in the hot, arid climates, as a cooling mechanism, so I would think that, yes, there's some aspect of evapotranspiration. You know, if you walk on a lawn, it's much cooler, or under a tree, than walking up and down the alley
That
in the
might be a way
streets.
of sell, you know,
Yes.
stacking functions.
I think cisterns are a great idea. The problem is that they have to be super large in order to contain enough water to irrigate almost any size of something for a whole summer. So you need to see it as supplemental.
But if it's collecting the water that you irrigate.
That would be rechargeable, yes. I think that would be a great case if I had that open, have that loop where the, whatever permeates through could get collected and then used for irrigation. That's a great idea.
You're gonna have to have quite a pump, but yes.
Yeah, city one.
But, you know, you could run a solar pump, but, you know, because it's only summer when you need it. So depending on your site, I like to
Just
have,
other plants in your landscape.
so 800, you have to have a lot, a really big, so, in the summer, a mature tomato plant takes 100 gallons a week. So,
You don't water that much.
you'd be surprised, the water coming out of your, the utility, it goes really fast. You're putting a lot more water out than you think you are. So, yeah, it gets, I really think
in a
800
theoretical sense.
is your minimum, and I really love the recharging from the green roof that you don't get when you're gonna water your tomato plant. Yes.
So, back to cisterns. Earlier you said the city of Eugene does not allow.
Oh, they do.
They do, I thought you said they do.
So they took it out of the Stormwater Management Manual as a strategy for managing your stormwater.
Took it out of the manual, but they didn't.
They don't disallow it.
They don't
Right.
disallow.
Yeah, you can still have a cistern, and I think the rule is if it's 3 times as high as it is wide, then you have to have it engineered, because now you've got a lot of tipping issues, but if you stay under that, yeah, they should be, but they're not really looking at it otherwise.
What's the reason behind all that? What my question was, why they don't allow it, or I mean, not that they don't, but
They don't promote.
They don't promote it for your stormwater.
For your stormwater mitigation, right. I think they should, because it's delay, very clearly
And you
delayed.
don't know what the reasoning is behind why they.
I suspect it's because people just did a cistern. You see a lot of people just applying a single facility type as the only thing to do there. Treatment trains are complex, you do a little bit here, a little bit there. but oftentimes, especially as we're doing a lot of infill, that's really our only options, and it's not happening. So I hear a lot, well, we couldn't do stormwater, so we couldn't do it. But really? I bet there's a way.
And then the cistern isn't really infiltrating this.
It's only delaying. So so you can then have a smaller facility, or if you only have clay, you still have it this big, and now you're going to have, because you're metering out the water very slowly, you're going to be able to handle it in your facilities that are downstream of the cistern. Also, I think a lot of people couldn't wrap their heads around needing a cistern at each downspout, or having to route your downspouts all to this one cistern. It's just a lot of thinking that doesn't happen, especially once you get out to stormwater world.
Hard to make that look good.
Yeah, that takes up a lot of space. Yeah. Space matters.
All the talk about living roofs, so what type of roof under all of this is best recommended? Like a rubber membrane roof, or what, and how long do those really last? And
They last longer when they're under a green roof.
when they're under a green roof, yeah, beautiful. That's
Yeah.
good knowledge to have.
Yep, and so you need to pay attention to the whole piece of the puzzle, because they have to come up and over your cheek walls, or whatever you're calling them up on the roof. Something like that. And then they have a cap over, right? So make sure that cap isn't going to add puncture. I know in sequential, the rep had to come and do a flood test after the membrane was put on. Yeah, there's a rubber mat, there's a PVC mat, and then there's a more environmental version that we use, a sequential. Do you remember, Jeff? So, yeah, it had 3 other letters besides PVC.
PPO maybe?
That's like the palm line or the black.
No, it actually was not that.
It's still white.
It was something else.
And that was a long time ago. I bet there's different materials out there that I'd have to educate. Oh, yeah, that is it. Uh-huh.
Membrane manufacturer would not warranty it if there were any penetrations over the occupied part of the building. So we had to figure out some clever ways to, like, glue the blocks down and then edge the blocks in order to add some of the structural components. Because we couldn't penetrate the membrane.
Right, but doing them over the walls, so you're not adding to the weight in the interior. Yeah. With the extreme walls. You really want to bring a team together when you're doing a green roof, somebody who understands the structure, the design of the roof, the utility components, the landscape aspect. It's a team, really, that should be involved in the green roof, and as early in the process as possible.
And in our climate, are you a proponent still of green roofs?
Absolutely. So another thing you have to make sure you design in is access. And sometimes you also have to have a way to tie yourself off onto that roof, so somebody will go and maintain it.
Safe.
Safe access. What a good caveat, yes. We did not have that as sequential. We just, they insisted that we just use a ladder. So
Yeah.
poor Jeff.